Okay, so let me give you a brief introduction and brief, details about me. So this is me. I'm Gaurav Saha. I am the lead project manager and an assistant manager in COVIDs. I have around 7+ years of experience in CDM and project management. Where and in the past 7 years, I've gained experience in various clinical databases like Oracle Clinical, Rave, and I have also worked on project management. I have also a bit of experience in SQL programming as well. Okay, now I'm a white belt in project management. So when you enter the domain of clinical research, you will see project management of different projects or trials is one of the integral factors of getting a good medication into the market. Okay, so we have to do various kinds of degrees in that. So and like karate and judo, we have different belts. Here also we call ourselves like masters in project management. So at different degrees have different belts to define them. So I am a white belt at that as of now. And anytime during this particular session, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Please feel free to clear all your doubts regarding the session, regarding the things that I am going to present to you now, and anything. So it can be related to your job prospects, it can be related to the things that I am teaching, trying to teach you, because today I'm not going to go in depth about what each and every aspect of clinical data management and clinical research is, but I'm going to give you a brief and a superficial overview to everything. Today's main motive is to see that whether you guys understand what is the importance of clinical research and what is the importance of clinical data management in the current times, in the present world, where every year a new disease can always crop up, a new disease can always come into the picture, and the pharmaceutical companies have to be ready with their research division, with their data management division, so that they can bring in the vaccines, they can bring in the medications as soon as possible into the market. Okay, so let's start with the session for today. Okay, so this is the brief agenda of what we are going to speak about today. So basically, we are going to learn about a bit of clinical research. What are the different trials, phases of different clinical trials? We are going to learn about clinical data management. What is the scope? Different data management activities. And I've kept a short glossary, so it includes a certain terminologies that need to be known while you are entering the clinical research world. Okay, so when you enter the clinical research world, these there are three terminologies that I have kept, and you should know about them, because that is the basic, and that is what defines the medication, or that is what defines a particular drug. Okay, and obviously we're going to speak about the different job prospects that are related to CDM or clinical data management. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you much with the history of clinical research, but there is a vast history that is, preceding the current times, and so clinical research is always is considered to be a branch of healthcare science that determines the safety and effectiveness or efficacy of any medication, devices, diagnostic products, and treatment regimens that are intended for human use. Okay, so now this definition is something that has been taken from a very important guideline that defines clinical research industry. Okay, we are going to know about it in a few minutes. Okay, so clinical research, as we all speak about, it's basically a branch of healthcare science. Okay, so it in any personnel or inside clinical research industry are looking forward to proving only two things: the safety and efficacy of any medication, of any device, of any treatment regimen or diagnostic products, for which are basically intended for human use. Now these two terms are very important. Human use. So all the medications that are being released into the market, all the devices that are there in the hospitals, the diagnostic products that are there, the various kits. When you go to a path lab, they will collect your blood samples, they will analyze your sample, and they will give you results, all those results. So how do they find out those results? The machines that they're using, everything is intended for human use. Okay, so and whenever a particular device comes in that is intended for human use, that has to undergo a rigorous process of research. Okay, and that defines the clinical research industry. Okay, now all these products, okay, medications, devices, diagnostic products, treatment regimens, all these things basically are used for two major things. One is treatment, one and another one is prevention or cure. Okay, so we have to understand when we enter the clinical research industry, it's always not about the cure, but it's also about prevention. Okay, so we should like they are saying nowadays, right, you should have a very good immunity in order to fight coronavirus, right? So in order to develop your immunity, what are the things that you should have? That is basically the prevention measures that you are taking. Okay, once you have had it, obviously I'm not talking about COVID, but once you've had the disease, you are basically taking in medications for curing the disease. Okay, that for treating that particular disease, and anything that precedes the particular cure, the particular treatment is basically diagnosis. Okay, you are diagnosing the particular disease. You are seeing the doctor basically understands, basically sees your basic symptoms and then tries to understand what exactly are you suffering from. Okay, and then the medication is there to relieve you of those symptoms. Okay, I'll give you a brief overview of what the history was of clinical research and how we came to the current, scenario. How we came to becoming the current scenario in the current scenario. The It all started with the Hippocratic Oath. Okay, so Hippocratic Oath is something which the doctors take nowadays, even nowadays. That started in somewhere around 500 BC, where the physicians had to take an ethical responsibility towards patients, and they cannot discriminate among the patients. Even if they are criminals, even if they are the notorious beings in the society, they cannot discriminate. As long as they are patients, they are somebody whom the physicians have to take care of. So all of that started off with the Hippocratic Oath, and then there was two major tragedies, two major disasters that paved the way for the current scenario of clinical research. Okay, one was the sulfanilamide disaster, and another one was the thalidomide tragedy. So I'll just give you a brief insight. So whenever you enter data management, whenever you enter clinical research or clinical research industry, these two are the major incidents, these two are the major events which are being taught to each and every personnel in the clinical research world. Okay, because these two are the backbone. Even if they are major disasters, but this created the pillars, this created the backbone of the current clinical research industry. Because during these times, we came to know that where we lagged as a unit in clinical research world, even though they happened almost 100 years back, around 1920s or 1930s. Okay, but then we realized where we lagged in terms of the regulatory measures, the regulations that are there, that the well-being of the patients were not being maintained, right? So all these things came into picture. So I'll just give you a brief idea of what the sulfanilamide disaster and what the thalidomide tragedy was. So in 1927, the Bureau of Chemistry was reorganized. Okay, so in US they had a Bureau of Chemistry, that's an organization, and they got reorganized and formed something known as the Food, Drug and Insecticide Administration. Okay, so food, drug and insecticides, so all these three things were taken into consideration, and this later became into what we currently call as the FDA, the Food and Drug Administrations. Okay, and uh, why did this come into being in 1927 or 1930s for that matter? What happened was there was a very well established pharmaceutical company. Okay, it was a big pharmaceutical company, and they released a drug. Okay, that was a sulfur drug that was known as elixir sulfanilamide. Okay, now that was a drug which had a solvent inside it. So basically, like we dissolve a medication or dissolve sugar, suppose in water. Water is a solvent for that particular analyte, right? So sugar's solvent is water. Similarly, the elixir sulfanilamide had a solvent known as the DEG, that is diethylene glycol. Okay, and what happened was nobody really tested the side effects, the adverse effects of this particular solvent. As a result of which, there were a lot of adverse events appearing, a lot of not adverse events, I'll say side effects that were appearing among the people. A lot of people died. Okay, they were mostly children, and this big disaster finally led to the establishment of a new act, of a new rule, okay, of a new legislation into the legislative laws of US. Okay, and that slowly spread across the world. Okay. um, Now even before this, there was the first clinical trial that has been, cataloged by historians, that has been basically documented by historians. The first one that was done done by James Lind. Okay, it was a scurvy trial. It was done on sailors. Okay, so if you go back and check, then you will understand what that trial was all about. I'll not bore you with the details of that, but the first trial that was ever conducted, that has been documented as to be conducted, was done in 1747 by James Lind. Okay, so then we come down to the second tragedy. Okay, that was the thalidomide tragedy. Now, thalidomide was originally, it was basically intended for pregnant women. I guess all of us know that pregnant women are basically, suffering from morning sickness, right? They suffer from nausea, right? In order to alleviate those symptoms, they introduced a medication that was known as thalidomide. And so every one of us, I believe, are from life sciences background, right? So if there is anybody who is not from life sciences background, or from chemistry, or had a past course in life sciences background, please do tell me if you're not able to understand any point. Then I will again repeat it. I'll try to simplify whatever we need to understand, and please do let me know. Okay. Okay, so continuing, so thalidomide was originally intended, as I mentioned, for pregnant women who, in order to alleviate their nausea, their morning sickness, basically. Okay, but again, it was the same mistake that had been done. They had not done proper experimentations. Okay, they had not done proper research and not established whether the thalidomide drug was safe for human use or it was effective enough. Okay, in this particular case, the major factor that was involved was the safety of the people who were using it, right? It was pregnant women, that was the population that this drug was targeting, and it was a catastrophe. Okay, a lot of children died, a lot of fetuses, rather, a lot of fetuses died. Okay, a lot of children were born with abnormalities, with malformed limbs. Okay, and these two disasters, as I again mentioned, paved the way for the establishment of something that we currently call as the ICH guidelines. Now, ICH guidelines are basically the Bible for the entire world, for the entire world to follow clinical research. Okay, whichever pharmaceutical company, be it a Pfizer, be it a Merck, be it suppose Sun Pharma, be it Novartis, okay, be it any pharmaceutical company, they are going to follow the ICH guidelines. Okay, the ICH guidelines were established by the then first world countries, but now, and a lot of developing nations are also a part of the committee that which creates the ICH guidelines. And there is a robust set of guideline and sub guidelines that are present, which defines exactly what processes need to be followed by each and every stakeholder which is a part of the clinical trial, along with the sponsor company, that is along with the drug manufacturing company. Now, the drug manufacturing company is not a single unit. It works with a lot of different stakeholders. Okay, by stakeholders, I mean it works with doctors. Okay, it works with hospitals. It works with us, like the clinical data managers. Okay, so and then it works with a regulatory agency. Okay, now regulatory agency is basically the final body, the final government body, which will foresee the work that is being done by your sponsor company, that is your drug manufacturing company, and it will give a green signal that yes, you can market this product. Okay, or it will give a no signal telling that no, there are a lot of side effects that are happening for this particular product. You cannot release into the market without further research. You need to reduce the number of side effects. You need to stop the research right now, and you need to redo your plan. You need to replan your entire activities, and you need to redo all the experiments. Okay. Okay, so now clinical trial. Okay, so clinical trial is basically a part of clinical research. Okay, so in clinical trial there are different phases that are involved. Okay, now clinical research is not just about just doing experimentations and bringing out a medication into the market. It gets divided into various phases. Okay, there is something called a phase 0 or the preclinical phase, then comes the phase 1, then comes the phase 2, then comes phase 3, and then finally the FDA approval comes in. Okay, so there are different aspects and different patient population that are being subjected to this kind of phases, this kind of experimentation. And obviously all the sponsor companies, all the drug manufacturing companies, basically, and they intend to take in consent, that is the patients who are getting a part involved in clinical research, they take in they give their own consent, and then only the sponsor companies can administer the medications that are under experimentation. Okay, without the consent of any individual, the sponsor company, the principal investigator, that is the doctor, the hospital cannot do anything to a patient. Okay, so that is one of the most integral and most important parts of any sort of experimentation that is done under clinical trials. Okay, preclinical trials are being done on animals, and obviously there are animal ethics committees that are involved, and they that foresee the well-being of the animals as well. Okay, so once the preclinical tests prove that yes, this particular drug or this particular molecule is effective, then only the sponsor company will take in approval from the regulatory board to start off with the various phases of clinical trials. Okay, it basically deals with the clinical trials are basically deal with to the discovery to verify any clinical, pharmacological, then adverse effects of a new investigational drug or investigational new drug, with the object of determine two things. One is safety of the individual or safety of the patient, and efficacy of the drug. Okay, so by pharmacological parameters that which are getting treated or which are getting experimented upon, the characters that the clinical trials are trying to determine, there are two things that the clinical trial basically determines. One is pharmacokinetics and one is pharmacodynamics. So if I have to tell it in layman terms, pharmacokinetics is what the body will do to the drug. Your basic circulatory system, okay, your basic digestive system, your basic your other organs, what do they do to your particular drug? Okay, now drug, when it goes in, it is being considered as a food item. When it goes into the stomach acids will come out. Okay, the processings will happen. Then whatever molecules are getting released from that particular tablet, suppose, okay, then it gets absorbed by your gut lumen, and it goes into your circulatory system. It gets transported, and accordingly it gets transported to the respective organs. Okay, if a particular injection is being given to you, it goes into your bloodstream. The bloodstream will carry it to the respective organs, and wherever the no relief of the symptoms are needed, whatever things that need to be done by the particular drug. Okay, so that is what basically your is your defined by your pharmacokinetics. Now pharmacodynamics is just the opposite, what the drug does to the body. You have consumed a medication, what is it for? What is it going to do? Is it going to numb your pain areas? Is it going to relieve you of stomach ulcers? Is it going to relieve you of any skin blisters? So that is what the drug does to the body. Okay, so these two are the major parameters that also get determined through a clinical trial. Okay, now coming back to the phases: phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Now phase 1 is basically deals with, mostly they will deal with healthy volunteers, because that for any experimentation to happen, we would require a baseline, right? The normal value, the value which a healthy volunteer or a healthy person will display, we will require that. Okay, but you might take this as a note as well: phase 1 studies will not have as in will not have healthy volunteers for two kinds of studies. Okay, two kinds of diseases: one is cancer and the second one is AIDS. Okay, these two are the disease kinds where if any experimentations are being done, then we do not need or we do not take in healthy volunteers. We take in people with the particular disease. Okay, so because we are going to administer medications to the particular person that will be harmful for a healthy individual. Okay, chemotherapy and radiotherapy we cannot really do to will not we cannot really administer on healthy volunteers or healthy individuals. Okay, that will deteriorate their health in a very bad manner, and they might die as well. Okay, so as I mentioned before, safety of individuals is very, very, very important. Okay, now there are small number of patients who are involved, or some small number of volunteers who are involved on in the phase 1 studies. Okay, and then we move off to phase 2. In phase 1 we basically try to determine the safety of the particular medication, the different dosages that can be used, a range of doses can be used, and then we move off to phase 2, where we increase the number of patients. Now here only patients are taken in. And remember one thing, whenever a patient becomes part of the clinical trial, they are being called as human subjects. Okay, they are not termed as patients, they are termed as human subjects, because they're subjected to your medication in question. Okay, so once the population of the phase increases, that becomes your the population basically increases, the number of subjects that are incorporated in phase 2, it becomes somewhere around 500 to around 1000. You take it. Okay, so somewhere around 1000 subjects are there as a part of phase 2. Then we move off to phase 3, because phase 2 also deals with the efficacy. So phase 1 was safety and dose range, phase 2 is intended for efficacy, but also safety is a secondary parameter that is there, but efficacy is the primary one and the most important one in phase 2. And finally, coming back to phase 3, phase 3 we are increasing the population to a few thousand. It can be around 10,000 population as well. Now there have been studies, so currently COVID-19 studies are being done across the world, and the studies that I have worked on, okay, so they have population for around 30,000. Okay, all of them are in phase 3. So I guess I just told you about a news that came out yesterday, so you know what client I'm working for then. So Pfizer, as I mentioned, they have worked on studies which included patients or which included volunteers around, and the number is around 30 to 40,000. Okay, so that is the phase 3. It includes a very large population. Okay, and then comes the parameters that it is trying to test. It basically tries to test efficacy again on a larger population, on a larger audience, and obviously the safety is one major concern. And if you look through the news, you will see it is 95% effective, the drug that the vaccine that we are trying to talk about. Okay, so now we are trying to develop it. We are going in for a very important US FDA approval in order to release the particular drug in US, and then slowly and steadily release it into the world, right? So let's hope for the best, and let's hope that the vaccine works. And then after the phase 3, once the phase 3 is done, the sponsors go in for another approval. So the approval that we are trying to go to, it's a part of this NDA approval, that is new drug application review, that is NDA review. Basically, once that approval is received, then only we will be able to, or not we, I'll say any sponsor company will be able to release a product or release a medication into the market. Okay, any questions as of now? Okay, if there are no questions, I will move on. Okay, so I've mentioned about different phases of clinical trial. Okay, now these are the different stages in a clinical trial in terms of data management. Okay, now any experimentation will have an approved protocol. Okay, just give me 1 minute. I am just okay. So any in terms of data management, we'll have something called the approved protocol, which will tell us exactly how that experimentation will be done and what it is trying to achieve. Okay, in research world, we have something as the question. okay, the question which we are trying to answer, okay, and what is the rationale behind doing each and every step. By rational I mean why are we taking this step. So it's like going from class 1 to class 12, okay. So why are you doing that? Because you need basic education, okay. And how do you go from class 1 to class 12? You have to cross exams it at each and every level. You have to go from class 1 to class 2 to class 3 to class 4 and so on, right? So these are the different steps of experimentations. And how and why are you doing that? Because you need to learn everything gradually, right? You cannot in class 1 you cannot really learn about calculus. No, it is not possible. You need to learn about the simple forms of mathematics. You need to learn about the simple forms of English, right? So as and when you grow, you will also start gaining in more knowledge, and that is when a higher form of education is being imparted. And that is same over here. The application will the approved protocol will tell you what all experiments that are required, that and it will be done basically to prove why that medication is safe and why that medication is effective. Now it's a data manager's, sometimes it becomes a data manager's job, sometimes it becomes the sponsor's job to select an investigator. By investigator we mean doctors, okay. So doctors from different hospitals, suppose a Fortis hospital, suppose Apollo Gleneagles, okay. So all these hospitals are a part of are associated with some pharmaceutical company, okay. And there are a lot of clinical trials that are being conducted there, okay. So the sponsor companies recruit these doctors who are suppose head of the departments for a certain department, and then they will conduct clinical trials. Then comes, as I was mentioning, right, the approval process. The approval process will be in place with the regulatory agency. Then comes enrollment and ICF is informed consent form, okay. The informed consent process is basically taking in consent from each and every patient before they get enrolled into the study, where all the information and all the details about that particular study is going to be disclosed, and it will be told that why they will get benefited and what are the side effects they can get after taking that medication. And if they agree, then only they will be enrolled into a study, okay. Then comes CRF data entry. So by data entry we basically mean whatever data is coming in from the hospitals, the data entry is supposed to happen. Then comes the review of that particular data and validating the data to prove that yes, this is correct and this can move on. And then comes a database log. So all the data gets stored in a repository, right? So everything gets documented in a repository, and that is called the database, okay. So now database needs to be locked before we can submit that for further analysis, right? So that there is no change possible in the database basically, right? So once the data analysis happens, it goes to the sponsors again, and the sponsors will again review the data, and then only they will go for an approval, okay, the final approval before they can release the product into the market, okay. Now these are the various stages in a clinical trial, that in perspective of clinical data management. Now as a clinical data manager, we come in from the enrollment part to the database lock part, and even sometimes we can go into data analysis part as well, okay. So all these tasks are being performed by data managers at different levels, at different in different companies as well. Okay, so what is clinical data management? I will just give you a brief insight to what clinical data management is. It basically comprises of three major steps. One is data collection, one is data integration, and one is data validation. Now, data collection is basically your data entry. Data integration is accumulating each and every data into different data sets in a database and validating that the data is accurate. Okay, so now that is what basically the data manager deals with, okay. So actually one thing I forgot to mention during the mentioning about the clinical trial, that when the market release happens, okay, so when the medicine basically released into the market in phase 4, there is some process that gets performed, that is known as the post marketing surveillance. Okay, it is not that one sponsor on one pharmaceutical company, when it releases a product into the market, it means that its job is over. No, at least for the next 4 to 5 years, it needs to monitor how the drug behaves across the globe or across the market where it has released that particular medication. Okay, if there is a team known as pharmacovigilance that will always be in the lookout for any safety concerns that the population or that the patients are telling or the patients are portraying. Okay, so whenever such safety concerns crop up, it means that the particular drug has failed. It means that the particular drug has exhibited something that is not mentioned in the label. It is not mentioned in the packaging insert that has been provided by the sponsor. And if there are number of occasions where such safety concerns are appearing, their recommendation will be to take back the medication from the market. And there have been instances where the sponsors have taken back medications from the market. Okay, so there were incidences. I don't remember the medication's name, but Merck had an incidence where the medication caused the death of a particular patient, and one single patient only. Okay, so I think it was known as the NuvaRing. Okay, so it was a contraceptive method. Basically, it was a contraception device that was there, and that caused the death of a particular individual. Okay, because of certain biochemical changes within the body. Okay, as a result of which Merck was suggested to take back that medication, because there were a lot of incidences that were happening. Okay, a lot of negative sentiments that were arising. So they had to take it back, they had to redo experiments, and they had to re-release the product into the market later. Okay, so such things do happen in and that is the part of phase 4 basically. Okay, so coming back to clinical data management again, so as I mentioned, it's a culmination of three different processes: data collection, data integration, and data validation. Okay, and that is why these three things make CDM an indispensable part of clinical research. Okay. Okay, as I was mentioning, three processes: data collection. It can be happening in either paper format, electronic format, or a remote data capture method. I'll just tell you what the differences are in the next slide. Okay, data integration is basically whatever data is received from across the globe. It gets incorporated, it gets integrated into a single source of data that becomes your database. Okay, and finally, data validation will basically lead to the proving of the fact that yes, this data is accurate. Whatever inaccuracies that are there, we need to get it corrected. Either automatically it will get corrected, or it will get we'll have to trigger it to the respective data updation teams that okay, you have updated this particular data incorrectly, please re-verify and update it accurately. So once all these corrections are made, once all the validations are done, then only we are ready to do a database lock. And once the database lock happens, we will tell the sponsor that see, everything from us is correct, from everything from our side is done, please take it forward. Okay. Okay, so these are the different steps that are getting done in data management. We have three major buckets that are there in CDM. One is your startup, one is your conduct, and one is your closeout phase. Okay, just if so, as I was mentioning, right? So I will tell you what they are in the next slide. But as I was mentioning, that there are different data capture tools, right? So in the startup phase, we need to create all these data capturing tools. Okay, it can be paper. Okay, paper method, basically writing on a document. Okay, it's basically that you have forms, right? Forms that you fill up. Okay, so those forms are getting created by the data managers in the startup phase, and they have to be approved by the sponsor, and it's the sponsor's responsibility to distribute that among the hospitals where the subject is going to go. Okay, but nowadays paper formats are no longer valid. Okay, when I was entering initially, that time only around 5 to 6 studies per sponsor were existing. When a particular sponsor was doing around 100 or 200 studies, around 5 to 6 trials were there where paper formats were there. Paper formats were in picture in around 2000s. Okay, around 20 years back. Okay, now it's only about electronic data capture and remote data capture. Now remote data capture is, as the name suggests, It's basically taking in the data directly from the medical setting, or directly taking it from the person who is a part of the trial, that is a subject, right? So they will wear devices which will monitor their vital signs, their physical measurements. Now the blood, like we have, even your sugar gets measured. You have AccuCheck, right? So that's a device that will measure your sugar quantity, right? So blood sugar levels, basically. So all these things basically become a part of remote data capture, and slowly and steadily we are developing towards virtual clinical trials. Because you saw, right, this pandemic where patients, there were incidences where subjects could not go to the hospital. Okay, they cannot travel to the hospital. Now hospital people were also not allowed, were not being allowed to come. There were people point of contacts being set up for each and every location. So suppose one particular person had to travel across districts. Suppose in Karnataka there was there were five people, suppose. Okay, now five people are going. One person is going to North Karnataka. One person is going to the western part of it, eastern part of it, South Karnataka. Okay, and there will be one person who is heading this entire team. Okay, so now that becomes very cumbersome for each and every person who is traveling to each and every individual, each and every subject. Okay, so and then trying to understand, okay, and then trying to take them, administer them with medication, take their blood sample, come back to the hospital, get them analyzed. So a lot of different tasks had to be performed, and this pandemic basically taught us the importance of virtual clinical trials. Okay, now electronic method is basically what we do now, entering the data on a database in a system. Okay, and then we review the data in the system. Okay, so the reviewing of the data part will remain constant. We will have our desktops, we'll have our laptops, where we will extract data from the database in either an Excel sheet or different formats, and then review the data. So that is the final work of it. Okay, whether it's a remote data capture, whether it's an electronic data capture, the final work is basically, and even if it's a paper data, okay, the final work is reviewing each and every data that has got entered in the database. Okay. Okay, now CRF tracking is basically leading with, is dealing with rather, the basic idea of whether a particular data has been entered or not. When there was paper format, we used to track whether the paper or the form has been shipped, or as in basically couriered to us or not. When we are having electronic or remote data capture that is being established, we are seeing whether a particular form has been updated online or not in the database. Okay, so we have various reports with which we can extract data. So as I was mentioning, like SQL helps us to extract data, and it tells us that whether this particular form has been updated, whether this particular form is empty, partially updated, and whatnot. And then we have to check whether why it has not been received from the hospital's end, and whatever answer they give, we have to document those answers, because they are deviations. Okay, so they are not as per the protocol, because they were supposed to be completed. Suppose one particular form has to be updated today, that means it has to be updated today. Okay, if it is not getting updated today, then it's a deviation from the normal process, and we need to document it. Okay, so that is part of data management process as well. We need to track and make sure that all the data gets entered into the database. Okay, so case report form, this is just an extension from the previous slide as well, so I'll just move on. Okay, now discrepancy management. Okay, discrepancy management is another important aspect of data management. Okay, when there was paper forms that were existing, we had to manually do the correction and update the data, not on the form but on a separate form that was called the data clarification form, because that is where we are trying to tell them that for this particular form, that's sort of an addendum. Okay, so I've made you have made this in inaccurate steps, you have taken this inaccurate steps, please make these corrections. Okay, and then we have to send that back to the site. We had to get that corrected. So a lot of to and fro couriers used to go, to and fro mails used to go. Then came the scanning of the particular document. We used to scan the site used to scan the document, and they used to fax this or fax the document. All those things used to happen. So it was a very very premature, very very crude process that used to happen. Nowadays what we do is we basically flag the inaccuracies on the database itself. We will issue something that we call as query. In data management, a query is one of the most important aspects of the data corrections that we do, the data review that we do. Okay, so this entire process of discrepancy management, basically discrepancy means, as per protocol, suppose the weight was supposed to be mentioned in pounds, you have mentioned in kgs. Okay, simple thing I'll give you. Forget about pounds. You consider kgs and grams. Okay, a particular human being who is an adult human being, their weight will be varying from, suppose, 60 kgs to 80 kgs. Suppose that's the normal range. Okay, so your values are around 65, 66. But what the site has done is they have entered 65,000, 85,000, 75,000. Now we understand they are representing that particular data in terms of grams. Okay, but as per protocol they cannot do that. Protocol is the guideline of the protocol of the entire trial. Then they have to follow that guideline. Whatever they feel they cannot enter. Okay, so we ask the site, we ask the hospital that please, as per protocol, this is what is expected, you please update the data and in the form immediately. They will respond to us, they will either tell us that okay, this is the correct data, could you please update it, because of access issues we are not able to do it, please update it. Then we will do the updations, and if they are not facing any technical problems, they can update it from their end as well. Okay, so I just told you a very crude example of what a discrepancy is. Discrepancy is basically any abnormality that is seen in the database with respect to your protocol. If your protocol says go in A to B to C line, they have to go through A to B to C line, not follow a different path altogether. No, the site cannot do that. That is, the hospital cannot do that. They have to follow the protocol. Okay, so this discrepancy management basically tells us that is the data legible, is the data complete, no, it's a discrepancy. Is the data correct or logical? No, it's a discrepancy. Is the data consistent? No, it's a discrepancy. Okay, so everything leads to discrepancies. Basically, legible means that we can understand what the data is being represented as. Yes, it is. If it is no, it's a discrepancy. If the data is the data complete, by data complete I mean, suppose your date of birth, okay, your date of birth is 1st January 1990, they have written Jan 1990, they have not given the date, then it's incorrect, it's incomplete. Okay, is the data correct or logical? As I mentioned about the weight, okay, weight thing, it is not consistent. Okay, that is not about logical or correct, it is not consistent. Now suppose they are mentioning your hemoglobin values for a particular human adult male, it should be somewhere around 14 to 18, they have mentioned it as 44. It is not correct at all. They have done some errors in their test, they need to redo whatever they have to do. Okay, so that is what it deals with. So if it is not logical, if it is not complete, if it is not understandable, if it is not consistent with the protocol, it is a discrepancy. Okay, so as I mentioned before, there are different types of discrepancies available if they have not entered a data that is related to your Crf tracking, if it is illegible, if it's outside a particular range, as I was mentioning, right? 65 to 85 kgs is the range of the weight, but they are entering 65,000. It is out of range. Okay. Date, I mentioned the date part as well, that they were supposed to enter the date of birth, the complete date of birth, okay, in a certain format. They have not done that. Okay. Logical, again, if I consider the value of hemoglobin part, so that's not logically possible. A person cannot have 44 hemoglobin. Okay, it is not humanly possible, the person would have died because of that. Okay. Okay, so study closure is basically when we lock the database. So you don't have to know in details as of now. Basically, you understand that once everything gets corrected, once all the steps are done, then we basically lock. So like we lock a house when we are going out for a trip or something, is basically we are locking a particular database with our, we run various programs with which we need to lock a particular database, and then it will get locked and it will be presentable to the sponsor. They will do their unlocks from their end, and then they will do the review of the data. Okay, they might not do any unlock as well. They will extract data sets, they will extract Excel sheets from the database, and then they will see the data, because they cannot make any changes in the database once we have locked the database. Okay, because that will be a major violation, that will lead to a lot of escalations. Okay, so the sponsors, even the sponsors cannot unlock a database once we have locked it. Okay, that is why it becomes a very, very important process. So as I was mentioning about the study closure or database lock, as I mentioned, it's a very important process that is happening. Okay, now this is just to summarize the entire clinical research and clinical trials that is there, and clinical data management, that about which we are going to study once you take up this course. Okay, so we know clinical research and clinical trials are trying to prove two things: safety of individual and efficacy of the medication. Okay, these are the two major things that a clinical research clinical research industries trying to prove, the clinical trials are trying to prove, and the clinical data management becomes an integral part of that particular trial, which finally helps the sponsor companies to prove that a particular drug is safe to be used, a particular drug is effective to be used. Okay, and I was telling you, right, there are three terminologies about whom we generally talk about. One is adverse event, one is adverse drug reaction, and one is SAE. Okay, adverse event is basically any untoward medical occurrence. Okay, this is, you have to remember this particular term: any untoward medical occurrence that has happened to a particular individual who is a part of the trial. Okay, a person who is a part of the trial, if he is feeling feverish, if he is feeling nauseatic, if he is puking, if he is vomiting, he has an accident, whatever, he is part of clinical trial, there has been an adverse situation that he has undergone, that will be known as adverse event. Okay, then we are going to determine whether that particular adverse event happened because of the drug, then it is called as adverse drug reaction. If we come to know he is feeling feverish because of the medication that he is consumed, it becomes an adverse drug reaction. He is feeling nauseatic because of the drug that he has consumed, it becomes an adverse drug reaction. Okay, and finally, any adverse event will be termed as an SAE when it satisfies these six criterias. One, he died, the patient, he or she died, the patient got hospitalized, the patient had any disability because of that incident, a patient got a birth defect, or because of that particular incident, he or she developed a congenital abnormality, it became life threatening for that particular individual, and obviously there had to be medical interventions, other medical interventions that were given during, because of no not because of during that particular trial. Okay, so any AE can become an SAE. Okay, so all SAEs are AEs, but all AEs are not SAEs. If all the AE, the adverse event, does not satisfy these six criteria, then it will not be considered as an SAE. He or she had a headache. Okay, he took a medication and he got relieved of that symptom, that will be considered as an SAE only if that medication had to be given after that particular person got hospitalized. Okay, if in the hospital that medication is being given, that other medication is being given, then it becomes an SAE. But if he or she takes it at his home, at his her home, and then he gets and relieves himself or herself of the symptom, then it's not considered as an SAE. Okay, it's just a headache. He or she reports that I'm having a headache today, that will get reported in the database, but it will not be considered as an SAE because he or she is not getting hospitalized, he or she is not dying because of that, he or she is not becoming disabled because of that. Okay, okay, now the thing that everybody wants to listen, right, about what is the job prospect of clinical data management. Okay, so the job prospects, if you ask me, are manifold. Okay, now we start off as a data entry operator or a data validator, database designer, or a data coordinator, that is when we learn about the process. Okay, that is when we start developing the concepts about data management. That is when we start developing the concepts about clinical trials. And as and when you gain experience, you start working on the database, you start locking protocols, the database locks, you will start progressing in your career. Okay, you will become a data manager, a biostatistician. Okay, you have to become a biostatistician only if you have the respective degrees, obviously the statistics degrees and all, but mostly data manager. You can become a SAS programmer if you are doing a SAS programming course. Okay, so you can become that. Now as and when you move forward, you will become a lead data manager. Okay, then head data manager or a project manager. Okay, and finally a lead project manager who leads multiple projects basically. So that is the hierarchy of the individuals, or a hierarchy of the different positions that are there in clinical data management. Okay, as and when you develop interest, you can take in new concepts, you can develop new features in the data management process. Okay, you can implement new ideas in data management process, and then it will help you to move up the career and move up the ladder per se. So as I was mentioning, right, you start off as an analyst, then becomes an associate, you become a clinical data manager, lead data analyst or a lead data manager, you become a team lead. Okay, like I was a team lead in Accenture. Okay, I used to lead a team of few people who were lead data analysts, who were data managers, who were associates, and now I became a project manager in IQVIA. I used to manage one or two trials. Now I'm a lead project manager under whom there are various project managers with different trials who are working. Okay, and they are reporting to me, and I help them conduct those trials in a seamless manner. Okay. Okay, so over the past years, the growth rate in this industry has been really, really humongous. Okay, in 2000, we never knew about this particular field. Okay, maybe around 100 people used to work across the globe, maybe around 200 people used to work across the globe. As and when market has improved, a lot of sponsor companies started outsourcing their work. They could not handle all the work by themselves. They started outsourcing their work, and a lot of different companies also started moving off to pharma domain. In a few slides, I will show you what are those pharma companies that are involved currently in data management. But the market size has increased manifold. Okay, one thing you should always remember, if any recession is hit, okay, there is any recession in the industry, okay, the pharma companies, jobs in pharma companies will not go. Don't worry about that at all. Okay, in my past 7 years, I have realized this, that whatever be the factor, I still can recollect there was one incident when I was in Accenture. One of our major clients had gone off, but our jobs were not impacted. The people who were working for those clients were distributed for other teams in other clients, okay, with this, on similar job roles, but they did not lose their jobs. Now I cannot really say that to be true for other industries. It may be true, but I am not really sure about that. But in pharmaceutical industry, one thing that is very, very nice about it is about the job stability. Okay, so it and obviously, the on a personal front, the job stability is there, but on a more professional and a more humane front, if I have to say, uh, one thing that will at the end of the day will give you satisfaction is the fact that you are working for something that will finally bring benefit to the world. Okay, you're working for some drug that might in the future cure cancer. Okay, I know everybody is doing research on cancer, I know that, but what is that research effective? That is the question that you need to ask. Okay, there can be PhDs, there can be postdocs, there can be a lot of people who are working. Okay, they just develop the molecule, but that molecule, once it has to come to the market, okay, there are a lot of steps that are following that. Okay, I am not demeaning their work at all. They are very important for the medical research, but along with that is not the only thing that ends it. Okay, there are a lot of other processes that need to be done, like CDM, for example. I cannot really say that CDM is any way lesser than a medical researcher. No, I cannot, because a CDM has to do his or her own research. It can be through various textbooks. They have to read through various textbooks, they have to read through various guidelines, then only they have to take action on a particular step, and that will help the particular drug to come to the market as fast as possible, because speed to market is something that every sponsor is looking forward to. Speed to market basically means how fast a drug can come into the market. Okay, the faster it comes in on a professional level, on a human level, you will realize that yes, I have done something for the society and people are getting benefited out of it. Like me, there are a lot of project managers who are undertaking a lot of seminars during this particular pandemic. Okay, on not I am not telling you about this courses, but seminars on how we can basically alleviate this disease or this pandemic of COVID-19. Okay, this can be just the start. Okay, there can be a COVID-23, who knows. Okay, so nobody wants that, but we have to be always vigilant about that particular fact. Okay, we have to know that okay, where we need to develop ourselves so that without any difficulties we can deliver the next time. This was the first time that happened. Okay, but we have to be ready the next time. Okay, and always we have this particular feeling in our minds that yes, whatever we have done, that has benefited a particular individual, even if it is one individual who has got benefit from the drug that we have processed. Okay, but that is also a thing that a lot of us take pride in, that we have helped at least one individual in the world. Okay, okay, so let me tell you something about the companies who are involved. So as you can see, these are the various companies which are present across India, across Karnataka and Bangalore itself. Okay, so Pfizer has opened in Chennai. Okay, there is Eli Lilly, there is GSK. Okay, there is Novo Nordisk. Okay, there is AstraZeneca. Okay, all these companies are existing in Bangalore. Okay, in Bangalore we have Accenture. Okay, the TCS has opened its new branch in pharmaceutical branch in Bangalore. Okay, then we have Covance, IQVIA, Seniors Health is there in Pune. Okay, Paraxil is there in Hyderabad and Bangalore. PPD is there in Bangalore. Okay, PRA Health Sciences, which was there in Delhi before, now it is trying to open up in Bangalore. So a lot of new companies are coming up. A lot of new companies are going forward in the medical domain. Now I'll tell you about one company which you will not believe that is coming into clinical research, and that is Philips. Okay, now Philips is basically a technological company, right? It basically develops television electronic equipments, but it has also realized the importance of the pharma industry or the pharma domain. It is trying to move off to create a new branch out of its workforce. It is trying to recruit new workforce, and it is trying to develop a new domain in clinical data management in Bangalore itself. Okay, few of my colleagues had gone there from IQVIA, so they are doing a good job over there. So you know companies like Accenture, TCS, Cognizant, Philips, they were never a part of pharma domain. Okay, but they realized the importance of this industry. They realized what is the importance of clinical data management, and that is what triggered them to move off. They triggered them to invest in this particular domain. And then obviously, since I have worked in Accenture, I can tell you, the clients that they work on are in the top 10 pharma companies that are in the world. Okay, so when you are working with these companies, you realize you tend to work with high individuals whom you've just seen on television. Okay, we get to interact with them, we see them from face to face. That is something. It gives you a good feeling that okay, I am doing something. When you hear their speeches, you see that you realize that yes, I have done something that is very much important. Okay, and finally, let me come down to why you guys have come down to this session today, to this seminar for BCRI, which is being conducted by BCRI. I became a part of BCRI the past year, and I realized that okay, and why I became a part of this, because first of all, I liked their message, right? They are trying to implement this knowledge to the other people, to the people who do not know about it. In schools and colleges, you never come to know about this particular domain. I never came to know about it. I don't know what your curriculum teaches now, but in my curriculum, I never came to know about it. I have a master's degree in biochemistry. Okay, I never learned about it. I came to know about it only when I started researching about it in the internet. Okay, now once I got the job, and then I realized that okay, I need to help people. Okay, and BCRI is one such platform which uh, you know basically helps me in order to impart whatever knowledge I have gained over the past 7 or 8 years. Okay, so while working on hand on the data management aspect, realizing what are the various intricacies, and then I realized that okay, I need to impart at least a fraction of this knowledge to the people who are going to be in the future. Okay, we need to pave the way for the future so that they know what they are going into and why they should go into data management. Okay, and we have had good success rate with placements and all. I have worked in 3 different companies. I have helped them get placed. Even I guess Sridhar and Pankaj will be able to help you out in the information regarding that. But we've even I will try to help you out with developing your resume. How do you need to develop your curriculum vitae, that is your CV, for this interviews? Okay, how you need to go into an interview. So I have taken a lot of interviews over the past 4 or 5 years. Okay, obviously I had not started taking interviews from the very beginning, right? So once I became a subject matter expert in this particular domain, I started going in for interviews, and that is when I realized, I learned that people generally do not have the knowledge about data management. I have heard people answering that no, I don't know anything about data management, and that is a very very big no in an interview. You cannot do that. Okay, and you do not get enough information in the internet as of now. So you might get information that is from 2014-15. Okay, but the latest information you have to know about that, so that when you go into the interview, you are able to impress them in your first go, and you don't have to go back home empty handed. Okay, you get the job, you get selected, and you get the call. So when I had gone for the interview, I got the call in the very next day. Okay, so somewhere when I had asked my interviewer that why did you take me, he had told me that these are the reasons for which we had selected you. Okay, and in the future I have tried to implement the same thing in the interviews, and I've seen my colleagues do the same. Okay, they see for some aspects, some knowledge about clinical research, some knowledge about data management. They need that, they see that whether the particular individual has that or not, and then only they are moved off to the next level. Okay, so through BCRI and through the different courses that are there, and in this in the course that I am if you guys opt for this particular course, I'm going to help you out in preparing for that interview, in preparing for the written test, in preparing for the face-to-face interviews, and obviously to develop your curriculum vitae, the resume, the basic document which will tell us, or which will tell an interviewer who you are and what have you done. Okay, so as you see that there are a lot of companies, there are a lot of job prospects in CDM. It is growing each and every year. Okay, so I guess that is something you guys can capitalize upon, you guys can work upon, and then you guys can go in and grab that seat in the data management world basically. So as I mentioned to each and every student of mine, the expectation is to learn the concepts, to see how the tools work, to see how exactly a clinical data manager works in order to prove a drug is effective or not. And with this, I conclude my presentation for today. If you guys have any questions for me or Mr. Sridhar or Pankaj, please feel free to ask me right now. Okay. Samyukta, right? Samyukta, yeah, I think Samyukta mentioned about in the worst case scenario, what is done if a discrepancy is identified after data lock. Okay, I saw the question now. Okay, now if a discrepancy is identified after a data lock, then we'd and if the sponsor identifies it, or even our there are data analysis people who are doing the data analysis, if they realize that there is a discrepancy, first thing that will happen is an escalation. Okay, the escalation is basically a sort of a written complaint that goes against you, a data manager who has worked on the study, the lead project manager who was leading the particular trial trial data, and then it goes to basically the higher management. By higher management, I mean uh, basically the directors, the VPs, everybody of the company that you're working for. Suppose you're working for Accenture, the VP of Accenture, it will go to that level. The VP of the Accenture will have to be answerable to the sponsors, that is the pharmaceutical company or the drug manufacturer. Suppose it is Pfizer, Pfizer's VP, okay, the VP of this particular region, Asia Pacific, okay, they will have to answer to them that why was that discrepancy missed. Okay, the sponsor will again have to do an unlock, and they would have to file a deviation that they are doing an unlock because of this, and for this particular reason this was missed, and they have to file in a document that is known as kappa, that is causative action and preventive action. Okay, what caused that particular incident, what we are going to do to prevent that incident from happening in the future. Okay, and then they will have to unlock it, and they'll have to redo that entire job, that okay, the data entry part of it, okay, again, and then they will do a relock. Okay, another thing that happens in this particular case is a penalty that the company which has done the error will have to give to the sponsor company. It will be like it can be a financial compensation. It can be in during that particular time is when a particular data manager can face certain disciplinary actions. He'll not lose his job, his or her job, but it will be like it will be affecting his or her performance for that particular year. Okay. Okay, let me see the other questions that are there. Okay, was I able to answer your question, Samyukta? Please write your response in the chat box. Okay, now Shubhashini Raju, he is asking that, can you please tell us, is there any government job opportunities in this field, sir, in the future? Okay, now in India, if I have to tell you about it, so there is one regulatory body that exists in India that is known as the CDSCO. Okay, that is the regulatory body for any trial that is happening in India, and the person who leads it, the position is known as the Controller General of India. It is DCGI. Okay, so uh, now there are jobs in the government sector as well, but if you want stability out of it, you will get it in the private sector as well. So because I don't see any benefit in working in the government sector in this particular field, okay, because there is no difference in it. So if you want money, you will get money in the private sector as well. If you want stability of job, you'll get in the private sector as well. There is nothing like that. But yes, there are opportunities, but I have never searched for that from my end. I have seen people applying for jobs in this in the DCGI. So not in DCGI role, because a DCGI is a person who is a very senior person. He or she has an experience of around 15 to 20 years in this particular field. Okay, freshers, they come into government jobs. I've not seen any freshers coming into government jobs for that matter. Okay, so in this particular sector, people with at least 4 to 5 years of experience, they go into the government field. Okay, then comes Praveen, I wanted to know about the role of SAS analyst in clinical research. Okay, I guess regarding the SAS analyst, Pankaj will be able to tell you about the role of SAS analyst in a more detailed manner. Pankaj, if you are there, then you can answer this question.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Sridhar.
Sridhar, yes.
I'll take some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, SAS programmer. Finally, you want reporting. See, as since long time, Mr. Gaurav is speaking about CDM data management, and finally, I want a report. Suppose I want to generate a table, huge amount of data, raw data, we can't analyze. So you want to generate a table? Yes, SAS is useful. If you want to generate a graph, what is the recovery ratio, what is efficacy ratio, what is medical history report, or what are vital signs report, you can see through SAS. The reporting can be generated through TLF, table, listing, figure. Figure in the sense graphs. Even some, suppose data is missing, some data is missing, even you can find it out through the SAS. SAS is one of the best analytical tool and also one of the best reporting tool too, which exactly provide you data sets. A data set is medical history, one data set, vital sign, one data set, AE, one data set, demographics, another data set. Yeah, like this, which are being supported by SDTM data sets, ADAM data sets. That's your job role once if you enter into once you enter as a SAS programmer. And yeah, you are, I think, from Shilpa, SAS programmer. This is the role. Yeah, you can get it certified by an online exam like Pearson. Pearson certification you can do, and you can get it certified. Yeah, Shilpa, Praveen, hope I have answered your question.
Okay, and I think Praveen is also asking what will be the pay for a fresher initially. Okay, so I will tell you how it has progressed from my time. 7 years back when I came in, I
I'll
used to.
sorry for the interruption, Gaurav.
Yeah, sure.
I'll take a minute of sharing my screen.
Sure, sure, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I'll take a minute, not much.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, you're able to see my screen. Hope, Gaurav,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, this is what we are. From BCRI, we do provide all the trainings. One of the leading training providers, even in India. So I want to answer your question through this. See, a fresher over here, 5 lakhs per annum, and a fresher on the right hand side, you can see 25,000 per month even. These are all I have provided only two. These are all recently recruited. There are our students. One into CDM, one into clinical project coordinator. The job scenario the pay even depends upon your performance too. Performance too. The right hand extremely a fresher. MSc biochemistry.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the right one, Yashashwini. Just extreme pressure. 17th number, 3 days back. She is 16th number. This is our placement, and we are not giving a promise that you are going to be placed. We'll provide you a training exactly to face any type of interview, any sort of interview. And don't think that 100% job placement. No, not at all. It's highly possible. As such, Mr. Gaurav was quoting like he was not aware of the clinical CDM itself, on clinical research itself. Once he came across after his MSc through the web, and now he's a manager. Every one of you, definitely. I have quoted only one or two here, the recent one. And Gaurav, Yashashwini is into your company.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, she's into your company. Yeah,
okay,
this is
okay.
how. Yeah, that's what. See, no, she's getting 5 lakhs per annum, and another one is getting 25,000 per month.
That is around 3.5 lakhs. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. Basically, almost like that. No, somebody was asking another question: how
Yeah,
much
yeah.
will be the payment? This
Yes,
is
yes.
our. Yeah, these two students recently placed. Last week they have placed. Okay. Yeah, please carry on. Over
Yeah.
to God.
Yeah. So Samyukta is again asking that what role did you have as a fresher in Accenture? Okay, the first thing that we used to do, even as you saw, right, Yashashwini's offer letter, right? So even Yashashwini as a clinical project coordinator, or me as a data manager, our first basic job is to learn about the process and about CDM that the company is doing. Okay, what I am training you over here is in general about what is expected out of you in the industry. Okay, that is in general. Now every company adopts and modifies that particular process according to their own guidelines. Okay, so I will teach you about a process to raise queries. Suppose raise ask, that is basically ask questions to the site in the database. Now that is with respect to that database, it will be constant throughout the industry. Okay, but there may be some companies who will ask you to write those text the question in a format that is specific to their guidelines. Okay, so that your first job as a fresher is basically to see, to learn what the data management process is, and then start reviewing the data from the very onset of no, the study basically. So you will be assigned a mentor, you will be assigned a trainer, and then you will start working, and then they will teach you about what the process is that needs to be followed in that particular company, and then you will start off reviewing the data. Okay, so once you start reviewing the data, you will slowly and steadily get experience. You will your so basically one good 6 to 7 months it takes to understand what you are doing. Okay, so what it will help you to understand what exactly you need to do for each and every step. Then it is another year to gain expertise in that particular domain. Okay, in CDM you get that knowledge, and then you start developing your expertise. So once you complete around 2 years, then you become a sort of a subject matter expert in CDM. Then you start training other individuals, then you start mentoring other individuals in your third year. By the fourth year, you get ready to lead a team who are going to follow your instructions in the project. Then you start basically at this point of time, you start reporting to a project manager. Okay, now a project manager deals with one entire project from start to end. Okay, if you are lucky as a fresher, so mostly when you're a fresher, if you start doing good in terms of the work that has been entrusted upon you, then you will get a study to your own where you will work on the startup, conduct, and close out. Okay, I had first study that I got was in the conduct phase. That is the basic normal phase, that is the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Basically the startup phase is basically dealing with creation of the entire database. Okay, that I took over in the next 1 or 2 months. Once they understood that yes, um, I am able to grasp the knowledge of that particular clinical data management, then they entrusted me with a study which was in its startup basically. That is, it has still not entered the phase 1. Okay, it was under the approval process, and we had to develop the database and then move on to the next domain. Okay, uh, I guess Dr. Sridhar, you can answer this question that basic
Vishwan.
salary for a fresher for SAS programmer.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, whatever it may be. I'll give you like go with CDM, go with SAS, exactly, not less than 3 to 3.5.
Yes, yes,
Not
yes,
less than
absolutely.
3 to even more. I can say I have seen freshers like Anita. She was our student, now into Covance only. She got the basic starting salary as 4.8. It depends
Absolutely.
again the requirement, but not less than 3 to 3.5. I think almost definitely you can say 3.5. Definitely 3.5 in SAS.
Yes, absolutely. Uh,
And one more question is over there, Gaurav.
yeah, I think, yeah,
During
I think it
hiring,
is. Gautam is
Gautam,
right. Yeah, so yeah, Gautam is asking that during hiring, do company consider if a person has bachelor or masters? Does a BSc microbiology student can get a job compared to the person who hold a MSc degree? Okay, see, I will tell you one clear thing over here. BSc and there's in bachelor's and masters doesn't really matter at the time of interview, but during the course of your work that you start off, I would suggest you complete your master's degree, because it will help you, progress into the next levels faster. Okay, you should have a degree, BSc. So I had a bachelor's in microbiology. Okay, so I also did my master's in biochemistry. That was the only thing that I did extra, but it was before I got the job. There were colleagues of mine who got a job after they had completed their bachelor's degree itself. Okay, so uh, they entered work in the work environment at the age of 22. Okay, after they completed their bachelor's degree in microbiology. So I was at a 25 when I started off, or 24 rather, when I started off. And so it does not matter when you're sitting in the interview. They see how confident you are in answering your questions. You know your stuff or not. Okay, they are not going to ask you in your BSc microbiology what kind of staining that you have done, what is the difference between an endospore, okay, and what is an endospore, okay, what is the difference between a transduction and a transaction process and a conjugation process. No, they are not going to ask you all that. Okay, they are going to ask you about what your idea about clinical research is, what your idea about clinical data management is. Okay, why have you chosen this domain? Okay, so the only thing that matters during the hiring process is that since you're a BSc candidate, since you're an MSc candidate, will you move off to the research field after this? They do not want that. If you are doing this training, if you are doing this training with us in data management and clinical research, in the classes I will repeatedly tell you, if you have to move off to research field, okay, then this is not the course for you. No, you cannot really go into PhD and all after doing this course, then working for 1 or 2 years and then going off to PhD. No, that is a big no-no from the company's end, because the company is also going to invest behind you. Okay, is you the company is also going to invest their resources behind you. They do not want people to just move out of the domain and then go off to another separate thing altogether. So okay, uh, I had an opportunity to do a PhD research, but I choose this one over PhD research. Okay, so and again, to summarize your answer question, Gautami, the thing is, even if you have a BSc, it will not differ. But even if you, it will not differ from a person who is coming into an interview with an MSc degree. But I will suggest you do a master's degree while you are working. Okay, there are a lot of courses, there are a lot of universities which offer correspondence course. You can do that. It will help you to gain momentum in progressing into the future. See, once you will finally realize that, okay, the HRs who of the company, they will also see your qualification as an improved factor. Basically, you have completed your MSc, during your work you have that extra qualification that will help you. But during the interview, they're going to see your knowledge on CDM, your knowledge on clinical research, how confident you are about that particular course. Okay. Okay, Shilpa is asking, is SAS certification very important to get job in the field of CDM, or they hire us and then train us? Okay, SAS certification is not related to CDM. Okay, SAS certification is related to your SAS programming activities. In CDM, you do not have to have certifications like SAS certification, but if you have knowledge about CDM and clinical trials, then it is very it is good actually. Then when it will help you in getting through the interview. Okay, getting across the interview. As I mentioned before as well, once you get hired by a company, the company will train you on the task that they do. Okay, they are not going to train you about the entire picture whole, as a whole. Okay, they're going to train you, okay, you have to do this. So as a fresher, you'll have to raise queries, you'll have to ask these questions to the site. You will just know how to do that. Okay, why you are asking that, why are you asking those questions, how did those questions come to you? Okay, why did those questions come to you, how did you pull the extracts? Okay, how did you pull the report? All that is a part of those this training process. But they are also going to train you in the course of time, as and when your experience increases. Okay, so here what I am going to teach you is about is basically I'm going to teach you about what the clinical research industry deals with, and what do you need in order to get across those interview. Okay, uh, and then once you enter the company will train you according to the sponsor's needs again. Okay. Okay, the Chandana is asking, if we don't get selected to interview, what the other ways we have to do? Okay, if you don't get selected in the interview, I will first tell you, do not think that you will not get selected in an interview. Okay, please do not think, when you are going into an interview, do not think about it that you are not going to pass because of other people who might be better dressed than you, who might be speaking better English than you, who might be looking more confident than you. No, you have to compete against yourself. You have to be presentable, as much as presentable as possible. When you're going into the interview, you have to give your best. Don't think that you're not going to get selected in an interview. Think that that is the last interview that you're going to go for. Okay, after that you don't have a career anymore. Okay, then you will realize that, okay, that's a sort of a pressure that you need. but it's a pressure that you want basically in order to pass any interview. Okay. uh, okay, have you, Samyukta is asking, have you second guessed your decision not doing PhD anytime in your 7 years career? I just wanted to know about job salary satisfaction and job growth. Okay, I will tell you something. The major reason why I didn't go for PhD, okay, apart from the fact that you have to slog for 15, 16 hours a day, is basically working on weekends. Okay, till this 7 years, okay, in this 7 years, in all the companies that I've worked on, it was only in Accenture that I had worked for in the weekend at least in three times in 4.5 years. Okay, and that too because we had a holiday and there was a client requirement that was there, and we got paid up for that. Okay, uh, I will not. I will again say I will. I'm not demeaning the PhD world or the PhD research any in front of any one of you. Okay, you might have interest in research as well. Not trying to demotivate you for that as well. But me personally, I have never second guessed my decision. Okay, because as I said, I am making an impact into the in the world. I know I am making an impact in the world because you will have patient meets. Okay, subjects who are part of clinical trials, they will come and meet you guys. They will come and meet your entire fraternity. Then you will realize, when you start talking with your entire fraternity, you will realize why the job that we are doing is so important and so effective. Okay, secondly, the thing is, in the last 7 years, and I will tell you, I've a lot of my batchmates, from my BSc and MSc days, who are part of PhD, who are doing their PhDs. Okay, and I have seen what struggles they've had to undertake. The struggles that we in CDM world had to undertake was to prove that we are worth it. Okay, we are worth to work in this industry. We are there. We are good workers. That is the only thing that we had to prove. And uh, one small thing that what I feel that has also paved this particular thought process inside me is the fact that you guys are calling me sir because I am your teacher, right? So I am going to teach you, and I'm teaching you certain things and all. Okay, in the corporate world, in clinical research world, you never have to call anybody a sir. Okay, even if that person is a VP. Okay, you call them by your names. Okay, and I would, if even if we start off your training courses and all, you guys can definitely call me by my name. Okay, my name is Gaurav. You can always refer me to like that. Actually, in the corporate world, in the clinical data management world, sir is considered as an offense. Okay, so you never call sir to anybody. That's your first lesson before you go into an interview. uh, okay, if you can call in an interviewer a sir because you don't know him at the first go, but once you enter the company, please do not call anybody a sir. Okay. And the thing is, I think there's another question from Chandrabhushan. Is there any benefit?
Gaurav,
Yes,
Gaurav,
yes.
I'll put a word and I have a word.
Yeah.
Like a PhD, just why I want to quote you, why I want to quote is exactly I'm a PhD. From MSc in biotechnology, I've gone to
Yes.
PhD.
Yes.
But what the salary they have offered me even after PhD, the same some of my friends got with MSc in clinical research field. While doing PhD, yeah, fine, you are working for a task. Your work is done. You have performed your task, you have submitted your thesis, you awarded your PhD. What's your point of target? Where you are going for job? Definitely, we need a job, right? We need financial support. Where you are going? Take example, some biocon. Uh, Earlier, people were saying it's a biotechnology company. No, it's a pharmaceutical company. But where you need to go next level is postdoctoral fellow. You'll go to PDF, postdoctoral fellow. Yeah, fine. If you are getting a job as a scientist, yeah, you are well versed and you'll have more amount of job satisfaction. Definitely. If not getting, then what we need to do? What we need to do? That's what exactly. So target yourself. Yeah, Samyukta. Target yourself. What need to do, what not to do. Because 5 years of PhD minimum, and then 2 years of postdoc, 7 years. By that time, you can reach almost Gaurav's experience. Now, I'm not deviating you. If you're targeting towards a goal, go towards PhD, but may take more time, financial support, something. This is what exactly is. Thank you. Thank you. Please go ahead, Gaurav.
Thank
Please
you,
go ahead.
Dr. Sridhar. Yeah, thank you.
Please go ahead.
And I think Chandra Bhushan's question is there any benefit by having prior experience as medical underwriter and analyst? Okay, so I will give you a brief idea. For a fresher role in CDM, they will mostly not consider your previous experiences. Okay, that whether it if it is related, not related to CDM at all. Okay, so because this is a different process altogether, it might help you understand the concepts. In a very easy way, in a you can understand the grasp the concepts in a better way, but it will not help you in an interview. Okay, it will not be that okay you'll still be a fresher in terms of clinical data management. Okay, should we have basic knowledge on pharma to be better in CDM and to understand it? Okay, so Shushmita, the thing is, basic knowledge on pharma, are you talking about pharmacy like B Farm, M Farm on that note? Okay, when we will, okay. Okay, so it is no. It is nothing like that. B farm and M farm, it's there is no difference in that. You might have a microbiology degree, you might have any other life sciences degree. It does not matter. Okay, because this part of the research, or this part of research and development in the clinical trials is completely different as compared to what is being taught in a B farm or an M farm thing. So in a B farm and an M farm degree might help you in pharmacovigilance. Okay, so that's a separate course altogether. Okay, so there doctors are also there, their farm Ds are there. Okay, so M farms are there. Okay, so pharmacovigilance is something where it helps. But any degree in life science is what an interviewer will look for in a clinical data management interview. Okay, in fact, if you have a B Pharm, M Pharm degree, they will ask you more questions about your pharmacy background. Then what do you know about the medication? A microbiology graduate or a biochemistry postgraduate will not get such questions until unless he or she starts telling about that. Okay. Okay, Manjunath, I think he's asking that when we will have a full-time course at BCRI, because I consider online courses are not as effective as regular. So Dr. Sridhar, maybe you can answer this question. I know everybody,
Manjunath,
a lot of us
yeah,
are asking the same question, I guess.
yeah, no, Gaurav, because we are all almost addicted to classroom session physically.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we want to see the teacher, we want to ask the question directly,
Yeah.
but virtual have more benefits, Manjunath. Virtual have more benefits. You'll have your own forum, complete session recordings will be there. Your trainer will be posting whatever it is, he'll post it over there. And whatever the queries you can post at any time. But during the classroom session, during that 1 hour and 1.5 hours, yeah, you need to ask the questions. But in case of virtual, the query resolution at any time, and trainer and the company can post material or information at any time. That can be possible. But who are very particular in case of classroom, definitely we are in COVID, may take some more time, may take some more time. But really virtual will help a lot. It will save your travel time. Definitely will save your travel time. You need not to come to Bangalore and stay. Definitely Bangalore stay is a minimum of 10,000 per month. With that, almost your course, you can do it. Half of the course, you can do it. That can be possible. Virtual, you attend, is just like this. How much discussion is happening now? Just like this, the sessions are. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And one of the person has given online is the best. We can't feel shy to ask doubts. No need to no need
You
to
don't
feel
have to
shy.
feel shy anyway,
Yeah,
Tirupati.
yeah, Manjunath. And also, you see, Manjunath, if in case of classroom, Bangalore classroom, only the people who are staying in around Bangalore, means who are staying in Bangalore, they'll come to classroom. But look at this one. We have now the participant all over the India, and the questions are also different. The multiple
Yes,
approaches you
absolutely.
can see,
Absolutely.
multiple approaches.
I agree
Well,
with you.
yeah, multiple approaches. Somebody is asking a question that may help us more, and some people even some people they want to ask a question but they can't because of as Tirupati maintained like shy. Definitely, many of us like that. You can. There are many questions, multiple approaches. One of the best learning platform. Even once if you enter into a company, any MNC, virtual trainings are going to already all are virtual trainings
Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely.
and
I agree
many
with you.
yeah and many companies in future take example TCS already it has declared in future many of them have to be work from home
Yes, absolutely,
and
absolutely.
trainings are also true. Okay, okay, hope
And
I answered your question, Manjula.
Sridhar, I think Shilpa is asking how many batches are being held every year and the duration of the courses.
Means how many batches
Okay.
of what I'm not I
Of
didn't
CDM, she has not mentioned that, but I think of CDM or any and duration of the
almost
course.
almost in it's if duration CDM is 2 months, batches depends. Batches are like in a month two are going to start. Two definitely two batches are going to start in a month. Almost every month. Yeah. Any more questions?
Nothing has come to me privately as well, as of now. Any
Okay.
other questions, guys? If there are any other questions, please feel free to ask them right now. Yeah, Shilpa tells that it's for CDM only. So I guess, as you mentioned, two batches, right, in a month and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
2 months
yeah,
course. Yeah.
yeah. And hope no questions. Okay. Thank you, Gaurav. Thanks for making this
Thank you
session
very
more
much, Dr.
interactive.
Sridhar.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks a lot. And thanks
Okay,
to one and all who have
there's another
participated.
question.
Yeah, yeah.
Sridhar, there is another question actually. It's telling that I want to know about the SAS and CDM. Uh, Praveen is asking. So SAS. So maybe Praveen, what you can do is you can connect with Dr. Sridhar,
Yeah, yeah,
separately.
yeah,
Okay, they
yeah.
are. He's asking how they are related. Okay, how is CDM related to SAS basically?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even Praveen, I can say you see clinical data management. What is meant by discrepancy? I can say data is missing. We have around 3,000 records over there. We can't go line by line. You can write it as simple coding or programming. What is missing? Where age is missing? It will show you wherever age is missing. Where results is missing, it will show where age between 25 to 50 it will provide you completely the people who are between that in the way you can extract the data which is required to you. Even CDM requires data has to be maintained, that can be. And even in detail you please contact us. I hope you have our details. We will give you even more details. And
Okay.
and thanks to one and all. Thank you, Gaurav, for
Thank you,
making
Dr.
this session
Sridhar.
interactive. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Hope to see you in the training sessions. And let's try to do better, and let's try to make each other understand what the clinical research industry is all about. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks to one and all. Have a good day.